I can own the fact that, yes, perhaps there are some, in fact there are some very antisocial, maybe even real incorrect thinking patterns that I have. And I rationalize doing a drug again, even though I know the result is going to be the same. It's really quite insane to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results.
What you are watching within the walls of a state penitentiary is a group of people working to change their lives.
Rather like looking in the mirror, so you see what you're saying and how you're thinking. I completely neglected the fact that I was the one that chose to put the dope in my arm in the first place.
What does it take for a person to change? Two things are basic. Deal with destructive and addictive behavior, and deal with your thinking. These two are linked together.
If I hadn't got back into that, or hadn't thought about that when I was out, I don't think I'd be back now. Even though I'm an intelligent person, I still was thinking the same way I was when I first got arrested. And when you think the same, you go back and you do the same things again. It's as simple as that.
When you think the same, you do the same. Over and over, the same thoughts bring the same results.
Yeah, it was my thinking, because I went out with the same thinking pattern that I came in with. I thought that I could go out and do the same things and not be involved in the same situation, which is, it doesn't work that way.
And all the time, I didn't really realize that I really had serious thinking problems.
I've been down 2 years, and it's like almost 2 years now. And my thinking's caught up with me a little bit. So it's got to change, or things are going to stay the same. And that's where I've changed mostly, is realizing that the more I think the same, the more the same is going to happen to me.
When you think the same, you do the same. And if you can change your thinking, you have a chance to change your life.
As I've taken this new thinking a little bit to heart, and I still make a lot of mistakes, I still make a lot of mistakes, but I get a little bit better results today, because I'm consciously aware of what I do this moment is going to make my tomorrows.
The change in my thinking feels great because, I'm meeting a person I never knew before, and I like this person.
It's just so much, the feelings that you get from your family when you start to change and they know you're really trying to change is great, okay? Because once you start changing, things happen.
It's all real difficult, but when you really make an effort and you really want it, it's possible to change.
If you really want it, it's possible to change. And the question is, how?
I covered it up with drugs. Also, they were.
This group began by focusing on their own thoughts and finding the errors. Error. I'm a victim of others.
Can you give me, in a short answer, what the motive was for you to commit murder?
Anger. A lot of frustration and a lot of anger that has built up from childhood.
Error. I'm a victim of my substance abuse.
Are there things that you did on drugs that you would not have done if you weren't using drugs?
Oh, yes.
For example?
Stealing, cheating, just things that are not part of my makeup.
Error. I want it fast and easy.
What's the longest you've held a job?
30, 40 days. I ain't never had a job over a year.
Error. No one was hurt.
Did you hurt anybody in that situation?
Oh, no. I just wanted the money.
So the group began by looking at thoughts that are errors, because they lead to lives filled with pain. In the sessions ahead, the group will focus more and more on the process of change.
All right, what we'll do now is we will watch the next interview, and Again, the purpose is not to put the individual on the hot spot, but to use this as a mirror for the person to look at his thinking. Let's see if there are any mistakes in the thinking. Dean, how many years do you have to serve in your present sentence?
I'm doing 16 years, and I've done 11 years so far, working on 12 now, and I'm discharged next year, around August or September.
How old are you?
38 years old.
How many years of your life have you been locked up total?
All together, okay, it'll be 12, 15, all total.
Did you use drugs before you were...
Yes, I did. I used drugs.
What did you
and
use?
I used marijuana, amphetamines, and alcohol.
How many fights, and I don't mean in the boxing ring, but fights, have you been in your life?
Oh, 39, 40 fights.
40 fights. How
No
come?
doubt.
How come?
My attitude, anger. But it only comes out when I'm drinking. It's amazing to me, when I was a boxing pro, I made good money boxing pro. I made good money. No, absolutely no reason for it. I robbed a gambling shack one time just to see could I rob it. I was drinking at the time.
Just for the excitement?
Just for the excitement of it. There was no reason for it. Absolutely no reason for it. I did it. Drink.
You know what I want to know? What happened to conscience and remorse?
There was no remorse. The conscience was telling me this. Looking over what happened in the robbery, how well he saw me, did he recognize me from a mugshot, and etc. There was no remorse at all.
What did you do when you drank that you didn't do when you didn't drink? What chances did you take?
Number one, when I drank, I only carried a gun when I drank. If I saw an opportunity to rob somebody in a certain situation, like for instance you, I robbed a couple of guys in hotel bathrooms. I looked over at the guy, I've been drinking. I went in these motel lounges for this reason. Go to the bar, have a few drinks, whatever, right?
But you wouldn't have stuck somebody up with a gun if you weren't drinking?
Oh, definitely not. I was scared to death. I wanted to do a couple of robberies a couple of times when I was sober, right? I didn't have the nerve.
Well, I should give you the chance to comment on your own interview.
No comment.
No comment. Well, we'll give somebody else a chance. Is there an error, or if you think there's more than one, in what you heard?
The thinking error isn't in the I want to drink in order to have the courage to go rob someone. I used to do the same thing. I used to steal car batteries, but I couldn't do it until I got drunk. I know it sounds like a pretty wimpy crime, but I couldn't do it until I got drunk. The thinking error is in wanting to steal in the first place.
All right, but what he... let me ask you, because I want to be sure I understood this. In this tape, in that interview, you are saying that really you wanted to get rid of the fear, and that the way to do that for a pretty serious crime was to drink.
After looking at myself on tape, I realized this here. The fact of the matter is, there's no excuse for what I did, okay? I can't blame it on the liquor or whatever. I was going to do these crimes anyway. Somewhere previously before the crime took place, okay, I had it in my mind. I'd been in these particular establishments at one time or another. I saw the monetary situation in the different places I was in, and I used the alcohol, okay, for the excuse to give me the courage to go in there and pull these particular crimes.
You used the alcohol to get rid of the fear so you could do the crime.
Yeah, I use alcohol just for the fear.
All right. You know that if you commit a crime, there is the possibility that you might get caught. There's the possibility you might be convicted, and there's a possibility that you might be locked up, or in a certain type of crime, you could get hurt or you could even get killed. So, I mean, you know the consequences, what they could be. My question to you is, what happens with those fears of consequences at the time you're actually committing the crime?
I think his error is that he's not listening to his fear. His fear is there for a reason. It's telling him not to do this. It's an instinctive fear. If whatever, you know, that's an instinct that we should follow, I think. If you don't listen to that, you wind up in trouble.
I think that's well put. The fear is there at a certain level, but by the time you're ready to commit the crime and you're on your way to do it, you're thinking about what you're going to do, and as you put it, you're not listening to your fear.
He's trying to consciously drown it, his fear, by drinking. So he's pursuing the act even further by drinking, whereas he should have listened to his fear in the first place and allowed that to give his body, his mind, a signal that says this is wrong.
Which, it's interesting because you said in an earlier part of our discussion that you had thought about killing a person, and then you had this debate inside yourself, or this series of thoughts, and you decided not to do it.
I've never was actually going to take a life before. That's why that fear set in so intense like it did. You know, this wasn't a robbery I was talking about, killing a guy. Another situation, right? Killing a guy. And but after I thought about it, you know, taking this guy's life, it wasn't a robbery motivation. I was robbing this guy, but that wasn't the motivation. I got the guy's jewelry, money, and stuff like that. I'm killing this guy because he's wealthy, rich, and at that time I had a lot of extreme prejudice against Caucasian people. And he's white, he got everything that I want, okay?
And you're not thinking one bit about how he feels, who he is, whether he has a family, the fact that he's just some innocent guy in a bathroom or getting off a train or whatever.
Never in my mind, never in my mind. But just the fact that is that I was going to actually kill this guy. I knew I was going to shoot him in the heart. If I did like this, I'm going to hit him in the heart. And the guy said, please don't kill me. He said, please don't kill me, this, that, the other, right? Something snapped. I'm thinking about it. I honestly thought about the gas chamber, which I've seen down there before at the time. I've seen this gas chamber down before. You know, stuff like I thought about that.
In other words, you listen to the fears, the consequences.
But the fear is still there when you're drinking. But like he says, the man's right. I'm drowning it, my fear, in alcohol.
When you're addicted to heroin, you don't stop and think of the consequences. You think of the moment.
When you committed that armed robbery, what did you think about the possibility of being caught?
At the time, I really didn't think about being caught.
At the time, I just shut the world off at that time and allowed the anger to flow. And at that point, it is when I took the life.
From the standpoint of the person committing the crime, it's not an error at the time he's committing it. It is the way he thinks. It is only standing back and saying, well, look, if you want to live a life in which you're not injuring others, in which you're not going in and out of penitentiary and jailhouse doors, then you have to think about possible consequences. You can't shut them off just like you turn off a light switch, because if the fears were there, then he wouldn't be out robbing somebody. He wouldn't be out putting a gun to somebody in a hotel bathroom. But the error is getting rid of the fear.
Instead of shutting off fear of destructive behavior, we can use fear to remind us of the painful consequences.
What we've done here is to see that there are mistakes that we make in our thinking, errors in the way we think. But I think that the important point is that if you decide that you do want to change, that you know that it is possible to do it. And there are really 2 points at which any of us can become aware of our thinking. One is after something has happened. You realize where you went wrong. But a further step is to be able to catch your thinking before you act on it. Let's take a look at something that does happen in real life and how you can catch your thoughts and what you can do about it.
Okay, we're going to do a brief role play about an incident in a chow hall. Dean, would you come up and join me? Situation is this. Dean is sitting in the chow hall, and I'm going to come up and approach him. You're in my chair.
Wait a minute, man. Let me tell you something. All you guys come to the penitentiary, man, you think the seat belongs to you, okay? Only thing they gave you when you came in was your shorts, T-shirts, and green clothes to wear.
Hey,
all right?
Hey, I was using this chair all last week. This is my spot, and now you move in on me.
You've been sitting over there with your buddies over there, jumping forth, back between tables, back and forth, back and forth. Then, yeah, you sat here last week a couple times.
That's right, and I'm going to sit here this week.
And you bring all your
friends with you.
friends with you. And you bring all your
And there
friends
ain't
with
nothing
you.
you're going to do about it.
Tell you what you can do. Step right outside your hall door right
Okay,
there.
freeze,
Talk about it.
freeze. Let's stop. What is he thinking? What is this man thinking, and what is going to happen?
Security sees this. They know something is about to happen. The two aren't mixing right. Now, neither he's gonna hit him in the chow hall, or else they're gonna go outside with a cop following them, and they're gonna take care of it, and they both gonna get kicked out of here.
It's not so much the chair, it's not so much the dudes involved. What it is the individual's perception of how other people in the pen see them. So both of them are more concerned about the other convict's perception of them.
One of the steps that he could have took in the first place is not come at this person that's sitting in the seat. Just find another seat that's available in the area. Why? If you don't present yourself or confront a person, nobody's going to notice it in the first place. When you're trying to save face in a penitentiary setting, in order not to draw attention to other convicts or inmates around, you just go find another seat and sit down. If somebody will say, well, that's your seat over there, don't worry about it. I'll sit there tomorrow when he's not there. It's happened to me in the cafeteria with the gentleman that is role-playing right now. He came back around, like he said, to his seat, and instead of me confronting him, there was a table next to his that had open seats. I got up, and I'm sitting at the other table now. I've had no problem with saving face whatsoever. He has his seat, I have my seat, and we go on eating.
You're smarter, you know, in more ways. It takes a bigger man to walk away.
I think the point is that if he wants to change, then he needs to catch his thinking in the very beginning. He does not have to go up and instigate. I think one of you said that. He does not have to go up and instigate it to begin with. What I heard you say, I understand. In other words, if he starts it and you get into it, then there's the issue of backing down and all of that stuff. At least there is for some people. But the point is, once he sees somebody with a chair, he's got to catch his thinking, and he's got to say to himself, well, there are a lot of different things he can say to himself. He can say, is it that important? There are other places I can sit. Going to challenge him is trouble. But he has to become aware of his thinking, or else he's going to be right into it.
Some of the things that people say, it irks me sometimes. I have to catch myself, really catch myself.
What can you do, if anything, to change your thinking in this institution? The small steps that you can take while you're in here.
The way to change your behavior every day is to stay aware of the way you're thinking every day. If you stay on top of it, one way to do it to me is to analyze every day the way you thought that day. As I went through the day, did everything go right for me? Was my thinking patterns on a positive aspect, or was I thinking in a predatorial style? Was I thinking trying to overrun people, or was I thinking to let somebody overrun me? I guess if you stop every day and think about how you thought that day, and though it sounds strange, it helps you to change your behavior, especially when you're trying to change your behavior. You have to be aware of it every day.
And if someone says, hey, let's go smoke a joint or do something like that, you stop and you say, well, is that what I really want to do?
That's the main issue. Think. Yeah, before you do. That's the main issue.
What is important, and this I want to emphasize again and again, is doing it in little steps. It's the little things that occur every day. You think of saying something back to somebody. You catch yourself. You stop it. You say something else. You think about instigating a situation because you're bored or whatever. You catch yourself. And why do you decide you're going to respond in a different way? Because you know what striking back, cursing somebody out, or doing some of these other things has resulted in the past.
You know, just knowing that when somebody tries to start shit with me and I can just tell them, hey, you know, just leave me alone, fuck you or whatever, you know, and walk away from that without a confrontation, then that feels good about myself because it shows that I can take the shit. You know, I can deal with life on life's terms when it comes to a situation like that. If I don't have to revert to violence, you know, then I know that there's no consequences I'm going to have to face.
And then you start with these little things. You try to catch your thinking. It's practice, it's practice, it's practice. And every time you correct an error of thinking, it is a step towards changing a lifetime habit. This is very much like bodybuilding. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of effort. And in fact, you can really talk about change as a process that you get better and better and better at if you work at it, like anything else. The ray of light in all of this is that you can change if you become fed up enough with your old ways. We have to be fed up with some of the things about ourselves that have resulted in harm to other people. We have to look in the mirror.
I've had a lot of time to reflect back on the old me, and I didn't like what I seen.
Well, yeah, because when I had first gotten arrested, I was like, one thing I've done, and I was kind of upset. Well, I was highly upset, and then I had to think about it, and it took me a lot. It took a lot of my heart to admit to myself that I was wrong.
What I used to do when I look in the mirror and not see or not like what I saw, that reflection, I used to lash out at people because I couldn't hurt myself. What I didn't like in myself, I would go out and hurt somebody else.
You know, I was in a cell for 23 hours a day. I had a lot to do. I didn't have nothing to do but to think about what I was going to do and what was happening and all that. And I come to the realization that I'm going to be here for the rest of my life if I don't change, because that was the lifestyle I was living, was the lifestyle of just feeling that I was superior and I could get away with anything that I wanted to.
And first of all, you got to stop and look at yourself and say, hey, I want to change, because you're tired of looking at what you are now.
I don't know anybody that likes to look in the mirror for very long at some of the flaws, the things that aren't so good. But I think that's really a very tough thing to do. And I've said it again and again. I don't think that for me or for any of us, that looking in the mirror and seeing the things that we've done that we're ashamed of, that we feel guilt about, that we feel remorse over, I don't think any of us likes to do that. And yet, that is one of the most important parts of change, because if you're not fed up with it, if you're not sick of it, then there's no motivation to change.
For those who are serious about change, there is another difficult step: an honest look at fear of change.
I'm afraid of getting out. I'm afraid of the temptation. I have some fear. I'm not going to lie to you.
And I'm at a time in my life, you know, I'm old enough, I've done a lot of time, I don't have nothing to show for it. So a lot of time and hanging around with a lot of my buddies. And you know, I'm kind of scared when I get out this time. You know, I'm not scared about doing time, because time is easy. The streets is hard. And you know, I just want to go out there with a clear head and, you know, get a job and not, wow, man, you know, I want to get drunk today. You know, I want to do some dope today. You know, I've had so much of it in my life. You know, I'm just really tired of it, but I don't even know if I can change that, because it's been so much in my life, a big part.
But when they see you trying to change, they shut you off here. And it's hard to do time with 300 women, and you've got 250 of them, you know, that are looking at you because they don't want you. They're afraid of change, I guess. And when they see someone else breaking off from the mainstream or not doing what the crowd does, I think it scares them as well. So, I mean, it's rough. It's really rough when you start trying to change, and you need support system when you change, to let you know that you can do it and it's okay to do it.
Well, this ain't hard to do. You look around these yards, anybody can do this. You know, you get out on the street, you start thinking about, hey, I gotta work every day, I gotta take care of my kids' dental stuff, I gotta be responsible. That becomes real hard to do. Here, they think of everything for you. Everything is planned.
But I know as long as I'm doing wrong, they're gonna accept me. So I had a great fear about trying to change and not do the things I did for 20 years.
I'll have to get out and immediately establish contacts with people who I can relate to. I'll have to make the commitment and follow through on it. And there's no way I can predict whether that'll work. I've known people, my contemporaries, people that I ran with and used with and did time with, that have years and years of sobriety. And when I get around them, I can hardly even relate to them, because they don't even seem like the same people anymore. They don't laugh at the same shit no more.
That's very real.
Yeah, it's real.
I'm still scared about trying to change, but I've learned that it doesn't matter if someone else accepts me, okay? And it's okay for me just to take it day by day and then just keep working on trying to think better thoughts and to utilize what I've gotten in and out of this place and hopefully, you know, prevent someone else from coming.
The biggest obstacle to my recovery would be the inability to picture myself recovered. I can't picture myself with a job every day, a commitment to a job. I can't picture myself being the father and doing a normal life. I can't even imagine me doing that. And I think that holds true for a lot of people. They've been some way so long that they cannot even imagine themselves living any other existence than the one that they've lived.
I've heard people say that even if they want to change, they're so used to being themselves. We're all used to being ourselves. That's who we are. That it seems rather overwhelming that a person can change the patterns, the habits, the thinking, the behavior of a lifetime. I know that change is not only possible, I have seen people work very hard and actually change. So what I'd like to ask you, I'm interested, and we won't spend a lot of time on this part of it, but if you would just give me some of the ideas that you have about really what it does take to change, your ideas.
I'm afraid in my mind that when I get out and get with my cousins and brothers and stuff, I'm afraid I'm gonna take a drink, alcohol. I'm really afraid of that. As of today, you know what I'm saying? Like the man said a while ago, things are easier said than done, okay? Now, the positive part of this process is this. I made my mind up what I'm gonna do to stay away from my cousins and brother not to drink. That's the positive part of the situation, and I can do that.
How I'm gonna change is to, instead of getting out, going looking for the same people that I used to hang out with, I'm gonna go look for people that are gonna better my thinking, you know, like in finding a job. Once I find a job, accomplish something, a goal, and then I'm gonna go find another person to help me achieve more than degrading me, saying, well, you're working at Burger King and flipping burgers. What kind of job is that? I'm gonna find someone that says you're doing good, you know, keep up the good work. Sooner or later, you're gonna be climbing the ladder instead of going down the ladder.
But when you're out there, how are you going to change your thinking? I mean, you're out there, you know where you can go, you know what kinds of people you can find. How are you actually going to change your thinking so that you don't go back and take the easiest path, the path that you know?
And someone could start out, if they really were prepared to make the commitment to change their life, to change to a healthy thinking, they might start out with just being compliant, and then do that until it becomes habitual and you start to reap the benefits of acting in a healthy manner, and then in a certain length of time, your sobriety or just being what to you appears to be a better person could become a source of self-esteem in itself. And once you attach this good behavior or this healthy behavior as a source of self-esteem, once you say that being healthy is good, it makes you feel good about yourself, in time that would become something that you wouldn't want to disrespect that. You wouldn't want to fuck off this good sense of self-esteem you got.
There is a point that you're making, and that is that part of change is doing things that you may really not feel like doing.
Well, enduring all the hard stuff that comes with change, looking in that mirror, like you say, and not liking what you see, and taking a real low, crummy job. If you can endure that and still act right and live up to the new expectations you have, that could become a source of self-esteem to you that's valuable. And in time, you might not want to blow that off, knowing that your alternative is to go back to something where you didn't like yourself, or you had bogus, unrealistic feelings of being okay.
I agree with that. I mean, and the question there is, particularly once you're out, the endurance. Whether you're willing to put up with a lot of things you don't like now for a greater gain later. I think the important point is, no matter where you are in terms of whether you want to change or not, that you know or you understand that change is possible, that you can change if you set your mind to it. And a problem for some people is that they expect, just as with other things, that they're going to be able to change overnight. They expect change to happen fast. Well, that's just in line with their thinking about a lot of things, that it should happen fast. And they want a shortcut, or they want a quick way to do it. And unfortunately, there is no quick way that I know of.
Well, to change requires a commitment, to me. An ongoing commitment. It means to stop, look, and listen. It means to do things almost entirely opposite of what you're used to be doing, what you're used to doing them as. It's uncomfortable. It hurts. It's a real difficult process. But when it's done and you even see a minor aspect of it, I feel it's reinforcing enough to continue it. 3 years ago, when I was in county jail, just about to be sentenced, I was diagnosed with the AIDS virus. If there's anything that's going to make you change, that is one thing that will make you change, either swim or drown. Do you want to go out the same way you are? And that's really the catch-22 with this. It's a lot of people want to drink themselves to death because they have it. And in my case, I want to change. I don't want to go out this way. I don't want to be robbing and stealing and cheating everybody around me. Today, I run 3 miles a day. I'm on the weight pile 3 hours a day, 4 days a week. I've made some changes in my physical being. I've cut way back on cigarette smoking. I eat right. I do what I can inside here to change. But that's not the hardest change. The hardest change is the emotion, the intellectual, the thought processes, trying to get out of what you are and become something else, trying to think of other people first rather than always me, me, me. That's a hard thing to change. It's all real difficult, but when you really make an effort and you really want it, it's possible to change.
And there are slips. I mean, I don't know of anybody that just, changes and goes in a straight line. There are slips, there are mistakes, old patterns die hard. But if you keep at it, and I don't mean just in here, because sure, you can use this place as a kind of training camp for change, but then it's got to continue when you get out, when there are all the temptations, and it's to keep doing the small steps, the practice, over and over and over. Again, I think the bodybuilding isn't such a bad example, because you may start in very bad shape, And if you keep at it and keep at it and keep at it, then you end up with something that you are proud of. But the thing is, there is nobody that can make somebody change. And you know, you're right, you're in here and you can decide to be, you know, well-behaved and you can be compliant and just say, well, you know, I'll chill out and I'll do what I need to do, and then be thinking about where you're going to get your drugs as soon as you get out. But compliance and just kind of getting along, that's very different from basic change, so that you don't come back to this place or any other place like it. What it boils down to is this: the bottom line is that you can change, that we all make mistakes in thinking, that we can become aware of those thoughts, that we can recognize those thoughts, that we can correct those thoughts, and we can live a life in which we have accomplished something that we're proud of, and in which our families are not having sleepless nights worrying about us, and in which we're not having to look over our shoulders for the police or other people. That change is in fact doable. I've seen it. I have seen people apply themselves to this and say that this is a life or death matter. And I really believe that that's the way that you have to view it in order to stay with it, that it's life or death.
Moment by moment, week by week, these are practical ways to move toward change. Focus on your thoughts and find each error. Remember where it leads. Eliminate the error before you act. Then explore other options and take responsible action. There's an easy way to remember. Responsible thinking keeps you free from choices that create painful consequences.
It's all real difficult, but when you really make an effort and you really want it, it's possible to change.